What's going on, everyone? Back again for a little 2020 Cherokee Lake. That's right, well, we just finished up the event here. I've got one word for this lake right now. Stingy. Very, very stingy. I think there was only 12 limits caught on the first day of the Bassmaster tournament. 12. That's crazy. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, guys, and I don't remember a tournament as tough. And what's real crazy is this lake, Lake Cherokee here in Tennessee, probably one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the country, especially in the South. I mean, there's a ton of smallmouth out here on this lake. You can see them everywhere, and it's just so frustrating because you're out there graphing, you're out there on the trolling motor, and you just see fish all over the place, and it is so hard to get them to react. And these fish are picky, like they're so picky, and that's what this 2020 is I'm gonna break down some of the lures that I did use and some things that I missed on, right? Or some things that are real obvious to talk about. But what was funny is speaking of drop shots, which I threw a lot, I never caught a fish on a drop shot the entire tournament. Had one bite in practice on it, but I would literally, it was crazy. I would see fish, 25 foot of water, throw a drop shot out there, let it sink down, sneak it up over to them, and watch the fish literally come over to the drop shot, run up to the drop shot, look at the drop shot, back up, spin around the drop shot, look at it again, and then just go, I'm out. They would just leave. Like, it was crazy. Like, one minute I've got green pumpkin, the next minute I'm throwing white, I'm throwing worms, I'm throwing little minnow baits. Like, I literally need to go get a dozen shiners right now, or minnows, and go drop shot those down on those rocks and see what's really down there. That would be kind of interesting to see, because these fish are so frustrating. But that being said, I caught 4 fish in the tournament. That's right, 4 fish in the tournament. You're thinking to yourself, boy, is that like last place? In any other tournament in the spring, if I would have went out and caught 4 fish in the first 2 days of the Bassmaster, I probably would be in last place. But guys, I finished 52nd place with 4 bass. 52nd place. That's crazy. So what does that mean? Points wise, it messed me up a little bit, but I still got a shot at everything that I'm going for, right? I still want to win a tournament. I still can make the elites. I still want to win an Angler of the Year title. So all those are very doable still, and that's what we're fishing for. But like the first day of this tournament, 12 limits caught. 12 out of 175 boats or so, 12 limits. So the fishing was so super, super, super tough. But there was a couple key things, and one lure I'm gonna talk about that caught 2 of my key fish in the tournament. And it's a neat way of catching some fish. And I did lose a couple that would have helped me out a lot. And it's this little bait right here. Check that thing out, guys. That's a little underspin. I don't even know the name of it. I literally bought it at a tackle shop here, and I did some modifications to it. It had a bigger blade, and I put a little Colorado blade on there, and I put a bigger hook on. So I did some little minor modifications, but basically it's like a little George or a little tailspin. And in the fall, tailspins work well all around the country, because a lot of times in the fall, these fish are feeding on small bait, and you need something to make them kind of react, right? And so this bait is heavy. It weighs almost an ounce. It has flash to it, and it goes really fast. So you'll throw it out there, let it sink down to the bottom if there's a school of fish down there close to the bottom, and rip it up through the school of fish, especially if there's bait around, and it jumps up in front of their face and flutters down, and jumps up and flutters down. And it kind of takes those fish that are inactive, the ones that run up to the drop shot and look at it like, nah, I don't think so. It just kind of changes their mind a little bit, kind of makes them react. Not every time, but you can get those stubborn fish to react. Again, it's the size of the bait, it's the color, it imitates the size bait fish that those fish are feeding on. So that's just a little tailspin there. There's lots of different companies that make them. And again, I don't even know the name of this thing. I bought it at a tackle shop, but you know, most tackle shops sell little underspins. And that was a key little bait for me. It put a couple big fish in the boat. Matter of fact, check out this footage from this little tailspin. Got him. Stay on the big one, dude. It's a big one. Oh my gosh, it's a big one. Whoa! Woo! Bam! 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 Thank you, Jesus. Guys. Oh my goodness. pretty crazy, huh? That thing catches some big ones. So that was, for me, a key little bait right there. I think if I had a little bit more time and found, I think really, for me, I boiled down to not finding enough fish. I mean, I had a couple places that had some groups of fish, but I just needed more, and I should have stayed on longer. You know, like watching the weigh in at Bassmaster Live and listening to the people on the water fishing, I heard a common theme this week from the guys that did well, that they pretty much stayed on their spot all day long. Like they found a group of fish and they just stayed there all day long. And I didn't do that. You know, I'd start off in the morning on one spot and then I'd run around the lake, fishing points and bluff walls and bridge pylons and up the river and back down the lake and bouncing around a little too much. And I should have just stayed put. Matter of fact, on day 2, I caught 3 fish by 8:30 in the morning off one spot, and there's a whole school there. They kind of stopped biting, but I should have just chilled, maybe slide off of them for a little bit, fish around the perimeter, see if I can't pick up a bonus fish or two, and then slide back into the juice and catch some of those fish. But I didn't do that. I kept running around. So really looking back, I should have just stayed put. You know, and you know, when you can run a pattern on a lake, that can be pretty deadly. You know, the last day of the Bassmaster tournament, Marty Robertson was sat on his one spot until noon on day 3 without any fish. Caught him real good the first 2 days off one spot. Sat there till noon on the final day with no fish. They weren't biting, the weather changed. And he scratched all that and went to the bank and threw a topwater. Well, watching the live, it was neat because quickly he caught a couple fish, and those couple fish came in pockets on a particular type of cover, like those flat pockets with just a little bit of something in the water, whether it was a rock or whether it was a little piece of brush or something in the water those largemouth were hanging on. And once he caught those 2 fish, he literally said, okay, I know what to look for. And he ran around that upper end of the lake. He put together the winning bag of fish. I like to fish that way. I'm not the type of guy to sit and on a spot all day long. I will if I have to, but that was my biggest problem. Looking back, I should have stayed put because I wasn't on a pattern. When you can run around on a pattern, that's great, but I wasn't on a pattern. I literally was fishing a bluff wall 1 minute, a bridge pile in the next, a flat pocket, crankbait in here, biffle bug in there, fishing a dock. I mean, I was really in search of a pattern, and I should have just stayed put and said, you know what? This isn't one of those tournaments for me that I can run around. You can't force things to happen. You have to be smart about it, and sometimes just sit back and chill and make it happen. And that's really hindsight 2020 for me. That's what I should have done. I should have stayed right on those fish those first 2 days because there was enough fish there to do well in the tournament, maybe even win. I'm telling you, the quality was good. You know, I basically caught 4 fish off that spot, 4 that weighed 12 pounds. So if I'd have caught 5, you know, that's basically a pretty darn good average, 3-pound average. I'd have had 15 pounds. 15 pounds was the biggest bag of the whole tournament. Now, real quick, couple of little things. Swim bait, little saucy swimmer. It wasn't this particular one, it was one that was a little bit smaller, but I'm out of them. I threw this on 2 different size heads. Basically, what I was doing is, let's open up my little jig box here. I was throwing on an 1/8 ounce, that's an 1/8 ounce head, and also a 1/4 ounce head, 2 heads right there. And it depended how deep I was fishing. So some of the places, some of the fish that I was fishing for were topping out in like 12 to 15 foot, and I would throw the lighter head there. Now in the deeper spots, that 20, really 25 to 30, there was a couple little rock piles in 25 to 30, I'd throw this little bit bigger head because you have to get it down there. I was throwing on 10-pound line. That's real important. If you throw real heavy line way out deep, your bait's not gonna get down to that proper depth properly. So you really wanna pay attention to line size. Now up shallow, you know, in that 12-foot range, you can probably get away with 12-pound line if you wanted to around all those rocks. But out deep, you wanna get down to that 10-pound test. It gets that bait down there real deep. And I was just reeling it steady and slow and letting it sink all the way. Here's how I fish out deep. I'll throw it all the way out there because these smallmouth are on the bottom. Let it sink all the way to the bottom. Then just start reeling real slow. Your bait will lift up because your line's still sinking down. Your bait will lift up when you start reeling, and I was trying to keep in that bait basically 1 foot to 2 foot above the rocks. So I wasn't getting hung up, but those fish were still reacting to it. If it got too high above them, they didn't react real well. Now I did catch a couple suspended fish in practice, and one of them in the tournament that was key on this tail spin. And the tip I can give you on suspended fish is to fish above them, don't fish below them. So I saw them on the Panoptics out there in 30 foot of water, suspended about 15 feet down. I saw a single mark. I threw the tail spin over there, let it sink down to the depth, and then stroke it and hop it up, let it sink down, stroke it, hop it up above the smallmouth. And that time, it was so cool seeing that fish streak up and start chasing that tail spin, and slammed it, and I caught those nice fish. But if I would have dropped down below that smallmouth with that lure and stroked it below him, it would have spooked him off. They just don't, smallmouth want to kind of feed up. So that's a really important tip for you if you're fishing for suspended fish, especially smallmouth and spotted bass. They want to feed up. So try to keep your bait slightly above them. But that saucy swimmer put a couple fish in the boat on day one as well, and that helped. You know, for me, I didn't catch them on a shaky head very good. I did catch a couple fish in practice on a Ned head. This is the Guggen Ned rig, rattling Ned, matter of fact. But I didn't catch a lot on it. You know, I wish I could sit here and tell you that this thing was key, but for me, I just did not catch a lot of fish on stuff on the bottom. In the fall, you know, you can obviously, there were some of the guys in the top 12 that did catch them on drop shots and Ned rigs and stuff like that. But in the fall, typically, if you stick with shad type stuff, swim baits, spinner baits, shad imitating things, you're gonna catch on average more fish, because in the fall, fish are feeding on bait. They're not really eating a lot of crawdads and stuff as much. So there are times that stuff works really well, but in the fall, when they're chasing bait, before it gets too cold, I like imitating things like little shad, swim baits, tail spins, crankbaits and stuff like that. Now, I know that this tournament didn't go great. I know that what I'm telling you isn't the tournament winning stuff, but I will say this, paying attention to when you do good or when you do bad, kind of what worked and what didn't work, and breaking down the day, it is real important to do. You know, it is real important to do. You know, I fish hard, I work hard. You know, it was just one of those tournaments that I've got a lot of confidence here because I've done well here in the past, but it was springtime, of course. But it's a neat lake. I hope we come back. I hope we get another shot at Cherokee Lake sometime in the near future, because I enjoy fishing here. It's a really interesting lake, probably one of the prettiest lakes I've ever been on, and all that. So that being said, we're getting ready to move on to the next event. I'm gonna go home for a couple weeks, chill out with the family, give them some much needed attention. And then we're off to Dallas to Louisville Lake, which is quite a bit of an unknown for me, as well as a lot of anglers, because they don't have very many tournaments out there on Louisville, or at least not that have heard of. You know, they've had a few Bassmasters over the years there, but it's kind of uncharted waters a little bit. So looking forward to that. And then we finish up the tour season on Lay Lake in Alabama, which should be a lot of fun. I love fishing in Alabama. And that's it. 2020 is done, guys. We're out of here. We survived. We kept the points in check, which is good. Thank you so much for all the support. So guys, if you like videos like this, be sure to drop a comment down below. I do appreciate all of the support you guys have been giving me on everything. And by the way, check out my Instagram and Facebook pages. I know a lot of you guys follow me on YouTube. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're doing lots of cool stuff over there as well. So we're packing up the truck. We're getting ready to pull out of here. Cool spot right here. I will leave you with this. This little house right here, Cherokee Lake, right here on the lake, right up above Bean Station. Great cabin, great location, and great parking. So we're gonna drop a link in the description down below for this cabin right here. If you wanna check out what it looks like inside, be sure to check out the travel vlog that we put up a couple days ago and check it out. But great little spot. So if you're in town fishing a tournament, be sure to stay here at this house. And that's it, guys. We're gone. We're heading to Florida. I'm gonna do a little saltwater fishing while I'm there. We'll see you. Bam!